So we're going to say goodbye to Lasham now, and our track would have come across here on a level crossing and then crossing the road. Not that there's anything to see today, but in this field our line would have gone through there. You may be able to see just a slight ridge. I don't know whether that's anything to do with it, but it's been ploughed out in modern times. But our line would have gone straight across this field. And it's worth pointing out that when passenger services ceased in 1932, freight continued until 1936, but only as far as Bentworth and Lasham station. The track was severed west of the level crossing, and that's on the opposite side of the metal gates that you can see in the photo. I'm standing right on the edge of the A339. We've just left the station at Lasham, but I've just noticed something in the field. Our station is over there, you can see the cottages, and the station is where those trees are, and a line would have come through there. But I've just noticed in the field we've got a line of grass here, and it's coming from what looks like the exact place of where the level crossing was over there on the road. So I'm wondering, because we've got a different type of grass, does that mark the line of the railway? It seems to be going in the right way, and it should move towards the road as we go up there towards Lasham crossing. So we're coming out to our next feature now, and I'm still going to harp on about these markings in the field because we're a little bit further on, but I'm sure I can still see some sort of a line, and it's going in it's in exactly the right position. And if you look up there, we've got some trees. The trees seem to hollow out, there's a gap between, and that definitely is the track bed through there as we come up to Lasham crossing. Have a look at this overhead view from Google Earth. Now this view was taken in 2005, and it shows exactly what I was talking about from ground level, looking at the different type of grass marking out the track bed. Here is our station site at Bentworth and Lasham, and our line would have crossed the road here. This is the level crossing point, and then directly afterwards, look at this lovely dark line. That is exactly on the track bed, and if you follow it along, it fades out a little bit, but it's still visible. And then we go into the next field where we got a completely different type of marking, but it's still just about visible. And as we go down there towards these trees, we've got the cutting, which we know is definitely the track bed there. So I think this proves that what I was looking at when I was stood here on the A339 was indeed the track bed. To my left, this road is a site of Lasham level crossing, but before we get there, I just noticed our old friend, the narrow gauge railway, used as fence post. Also, we've got a very rusted corner of a fence here. That's got to be of the age used during the railway. So going around here past Tony, in front of us we've got the site of Lasham level crossing, which would have crossed the road exactly here. But fortunately, our track bed is marked by this trackway used by South East Water. Obviously I can't get in there, but do you remember those trees that I said to you when I was on the other side? Well, this is those trees, and our line would have come through here, turning this way, and would have gone through there where we've got dense vegetation now. Over here, behind those trees, we've got a very much extended Lasham level crossing keeper's cottage, and obviously as it's a private residence, I'm not going to stand there and film it, but at least it marks where it is, and I think we can get to the track bed on the other side of these bushes. I managed to gain access to the track bed slightly to the south of the crossing keeper's cottage on the Lasham road, which you'll find just over there. And here we have a wonderful bent but Look at the work on that fence post, and I'm certain that's period. Look at that. At least I think it's a fence post. We've got the A339 just over there, so that's how close we are. And we've got a strange, I don't know what that is, whether that's anything. Doesn't look rusted enough, but it could be. And our track bed would have gone through here. So we've got a slight rise there. I don't know if it denotes a small cutting. And then obviously we've got the hill over there. Let's move out of the trees just a little so we can see what else we got. So yeah, we've got a slight embankment here. So moving out, you can see the track bed would have run through here, so it's on a slight embankment. So if you look over here, we've got another one of those fence posts. You remember the one we found just over there? That one's still in situ. And next to it, we've got our old favourite, the narrow gauge track returns. In fact, we've got lots of that. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, and so on and so on. Well, I've managed to get away from the insanely busy A339, and I'm now on the track bed. And there's two reasons why I know we're definitely on the track bed, other than looking on the map. One, if you look there, we've got a definite edge to an embankment. The land drops a little bit. And two, our old friend, the fence posts. You see one through there, and we've got quite a heavy iron one here. And also, standing up here, even though we're on top of a bit of an embankment, I don't know if you can see, but there's a slight dip in the top there. Shows that we're in a small cutting as well, a very shallow one, which you can see better there. In fact, you can see that quite easily, and that's where our track would have sat. So moving on towards Alton, we've got some more of our fence post over there. I'm sure there's enough line there to rebuild the entire route, and some more. Very overgrown now, and there's quite a few trees have come down. You can see the definement of the embankment edge there quite clearly. And we got a fallen fence post, piece of old narrow gauge rail there. And here we have looked like concrete posts, very moss covered, so they've been here a while. Whether they're dating back to the railway, it's highly possible. In fact, there's quite a bit of concrete, whether it's just been dumped here years ago. And over here we have not only another narrow gauge piece of rail used as a fence post, but this one has still got the wire attached. Under the tree, and then we got more and more. But unfortunately, our walk along the track bed ends here, because in front of us we have the waterworks. So our line would have continued right through here in front of us, and then followed the contour. You can see the road going round to the right. It would have followed the road on the same alignment, but just on this side of it. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're going to have to go, back on the A339. Sheldon, 1 mile down there. But long before we even go near Sheldon, which we're not going to anyway, you can see just there where our line used to go. And it's also the site of Sheldon level crossing. To my left, you got what is the enlarged version of the crossing keeper's cottage. Obviously, once again, a private house, so we're not going to look at that. But what we have on the right, we can walk down, if I'm not upsetting the dogs too much, is the track bed, and that's what we're going to do now. So looking back on Sheldon level crossing, which is just the other side of that gate there, we're on the track bed. We've got a bit of an embankment this side and an embankment dropping that side. Now at this point we are on the track bed, but as you can see in front of us, the contour of the land rises, and that can't be right. So if we have a look at the map, that should help us out and tell us exactly where the line goes. Okay, let's look at the overhead modern map and see if we can determine exactly where our line went. Now it gets rather confusing here because over the years there's been a lot of roadworks and it's obliterated a lot of the old railway route. Now we're looking at the modern A339 as it is today. I think it was back in the 60s or 70s, I'm not actually sure, but the A339 in this area was straightened and it cut through a lot of the old railway track bed. So what I'll do is I'll trace exactly where the line used to go when looking at this modern view. And I'm stood approximately here at the moment looking up the incline, which clearly can't be part of our railway, and that track goes along here, which is following the A339. Our line, so it would have come across Sheldon level crossing here, and it would have crossed over where the A339 is today, only very briefly, and then it would have crossed back again, and it would have crossed into this area here, which is known as Old Woman's Piece, a brilliant name. It would have gone round in a bit of a curve, and then it would have come round yet again, and it would have gone slightly over the A339 as it is today again, and then it would have returned back to the north side of the A339. So slightly confusing. Let's put the overlay on, and I might make it look a bit easier. So again, you can see the A339, which is the yellow line. This is our railway line, and I said it goes over the line, over the road, comes back again. This is Old Woman's Piece, and then it goes in another over the road and back again. Incidentally, this line here is the route of the old road, and be interesting to see if there's anything of that left. I should have had a look round, but hopefully that clears it up, because it's looking at the site as it is today, it's very hard to work out what's going on. When the film footage begins again in a moment, my location will be exactly here. So coming up to this bend in our path here, this is where our track bed resumes. You can see it goes up there before turning to the right, and obviously, as I said, that's high ground. It's probably spoil from the roadworks back in when the A339 was redesigned. But our line, obviously that's to Alton there, but it would have gone across the road and then instantly come back. So our line would have come through these trees, and then it would have carried on going that way. So we're now back on the track bed, and the maps will prove as much, and we've got a very high sided embankment down there. I'm looking for our old friend, the narrow gauge railway fence posts, because that will absolutely push it from 99% to 100%, but unfortunately I can't find any. All we got on this side is a more modern fence, wood and barbed wire, and I can't see any here, but you can see how deep it is down there, and the maps will concur that we are definitely on the track bed. And it looks like Tony's found something. What is it? Track? Ah, and there's our proof. You see down there, one of those ornate iron fence posts, all the brackets attached to it, and right next to it is a piece of narrow gauge track with the wire still attached. So that proves beyond doubt that we're in the right place. Our line continues to curve east on this area, known on the old maps as Old Woman's Piece. Now, I visited this part before, and ahead of me is Sheldon Bridge, which holds a little bit of controversy. In the Basingstoke and Alton Light Railway book by Crusader Press, it states that Sheldon Bridge was demolished when the road straightening work was completed. However, despite being a little worse for wear, it, as you can see, still very much exists. And over this side we've got the remains of the metal railings. You can see them down there. I was hoping, in fact I probably didn't take into account, because this is June and everything is really overgrown, and you can see some brickwork down there. I thought we'd be able to see more. Although you can see quite a good bit, when I came back here when the undergrowth was much less dense, we got some better views of the brickwork, etc. So we'll show those as well. But while I'm here, we've got some nice blue brick through there, and you can see the brickwork going through there. But that's definitely what this is. This is the Lost Bridge, let's call it. It sounds a lot more dramatic, doesn't it? So these are the remains of Sheldon Bridge. Either side of the metal railings there was once a brick parapet, and it was the same on the other side, and obviously the underside, the road going underneath, has been filled in, but it very much still exists. So I'm just climbing up this quite steep bank. It's quite overgrown, but we've got, and look at this, this is quite impressive. So the bridge is just over the other side of that fallen tree there. But here we have a very well defined cutting. And if I move a bit down here, look at that, that's brilliant. Let's see if I can get in there without breaking my legs. And here we are in that wonderful cutting. Look at that, that's cracking. So we're going to follow this cutting. Look how high that bank is there. We're going to follow this cutting and see where it takes us. I know that the track bed would have started going off to our right again, because it crosses the A339 as it is today and then comes immediately back again, and I'm not sure we can get much further, so we might have to refer back to the map again on this bit. And quite clearly we've come to the edge. And there we go. There, in fact, there you go. That proves it. We've got the A339 directly in front of us. So our line would have crossed over the road there, and then it would have curved to the left and come immediately back 20 or 30, 40 yards that way. So I'm back down on the A339 now, and you remember when I was stood, you can't see it in the bushes, but we was up there on the top of that bank, and the line would have come across the road right here, and then it would have immediately come back, and just before the bend it would have returned to this side of where the A339 is today. Pretty much where those chevrons are. Go to the left, and that is the track in those trees. So we've just come off the A339 again. We've just passed Warren Farm, and this footpath that I'm walking on now takes us right onto the track bed, which is in fact right there where those trees and that telegraph pole sticks out. So let's have a look and see what there is to see here. You can see straight away we're climbing. This plateaus, in fact you can see there's a rise in the ground there. So this plateaus and then the ground rises quite highly behind us. So this ridge is the track bed here. So I'm now getting onto that ridge. And you can see there the line would have gone through there. This is going towards Basingstoke. Let's have a quick look-see through these trees. So it clearly defines the ridge that we're on. So allow them to come through here. You can see the drop to our left, the ground rises to our right, and then facing the Alton direction, so back through these trees. And our track bed more or less follows the route of the telegraph poles. So you can see the telegraph poles hugging the side of the raised wooded area there. So I'm back on the footpath again now. Let's just move a little bit down here. So our track, like the telegraph poles, would have hugged the very bottom of this raised area, and you can see the land contours greatly here, but this is a level and it will follow the tree edge of the trees until there's a bit of a ridge there. You see it there just in the distance, and obviously that is our track bed again. It's been built up as an embankment, and then it would have followed the tree line round to the right, and then it goes out of view and then to the left, and then it disappears once again on its way to Alton.
Okay, for the next part of our explore, I'm going to have to refer to the overhead view once more. Now, this area lies on private land, and I did knock on the farmer's door to ask for permission, but alas, no one was home. But never mind, and we'll show our progress on here. So the bit of grass, the footpath I just walked across, you can see it here coming off the A339, and it cuts across this field here. And it comes in here, and this is our track bed, the one that I've just shown you. This is our high ridge, the high ground and the trees, and the track hugs against the ridge and the trees, moving south this way. Now if I just zoom out a bit, okay, so here we are. This here incidentally is the ridge that I pointed out in the last piece of footage, and then it disappeared out of view, if you remember. Well, what happened, it comes around here and then it sits in the middle of the field, and you see this bit jutting out here. It joins up with there. This is a piece of track bed that's still there. Obviously this bit here is ploughed away, and then our line comes in here. You can see the route of the track bed quite clearly, and then once again it hugs these trees here, and it's about this area here where I managed to find some access from the A339, and we can rejoin the live footage once more.
So we've almost reached the edge of Alton now, and on our ramblings down the A339 dodging the cars, I finally managed to find the track bed again, and you can see it here on top of this ridge, sweeping round from over there, and then it comes through there, and then the tree line depicts it. Then you can see here that it's starting to rise up on an embankment or more, that the ground's starting to drop, and the reason for that is because where those high trees are there, that's Basingstoke Road. In fact, you can just see a lamppost through the trees there, and that is where a bridge used to be located, the Basingstoke Road Bridge, and we're going to go and have a look at that next. This is the B3349. I'm on the very outskirts of Alton now, and this is the Basingstoke Road, which joins up for the A339 just up there. But our line would have come in up there, and you can see up on the embankment here, and it would have crossed over the Basingstoke Road via a bridge. Unfortunately, it's no longer here, but you can see just how high the embankment was there, as the line came in from Lasham. We're moving to the area of the bridge, and we're looking up there. I can't see any evidence of brickwork, so it must have been cleared long ago, and it would have crossed over just over there. There's no evidence on that side, it's been levelled off. But this would have been the site of the Basingstoke Road Bridge. This is Whitedown Lane in Alton. The Basingstoke Road Bridge would have been just the other side of the roof that you see there, and the tall trees just behind it. And our track bed, I'm standing on exactly the alignment, albeit would have been a few feet above me on an embankment. As it moves south towards Alton, it meets the rise in the land, and as it goes through more or less where that wooden end of the garden there is, it would have entered a cutting, as it obviously stayed level as the ground still continued to rise. It would have then swept off to the right and into those trees beyond the house. At this point here, the road wouldn't have continued as it does today. It would have taken a sharp dogleg to the left here, and it would have carried on across here, and right here we would have been stood on an overbridge looking down into the cutting to where the railway used to be. And our line coming in from Whitedown Lane that way would have gone through where these trees are today and out onto this open stretch of land. But the bridge that used to be here that I've just pointed out is just behind me. I'm on a small area of open land, and I'm more or less on the right alignment and on the right level. This is the original embankment. Our line would have started to veer off to the right now, and it would have gone into where those trees are, and then it would have gone through there. The road that's there today wouldn't have been there on that time, so it would have been an embankment just going across. So it's at approximately this point our line would have come from up there on its embankment, and it would have crossed into those trees here. Remember, as I said, Pituous Avenue didn't exist at this point here then. It sort of ended there and it ended there, and the embankment was across where the road is now, but it would have carried on into those trees over there. So let's go and have a look and see if we can find anything over there. So I just want to show you something that I noticed while I was looking at the maps in the Whitedown Lane area, the area that we've just looked at. Now this is a map from 1897, 4 years before the railway was built, and it clearly shows Whitedown Lane as it's marked coming through here and joining up with here. This is today's modern A339, and the Basingstoke Road at one time will go up there. Let's move forward 50 or 60 years. Okay, this map dated 1962, long after the railway has stopped running, but the map does show the infrastructure still there. So our railway would have come through here. Here's the bridge that I pointed out earlier, and then I said that the railway would have come through here on an embankment, and it clearly shows that. But what it also shows, do you remember I pointed out that Pituous Avenue didn't exist in those days and the road ended either side of the railway? Well, this map shows that it ends there and it ends there. If you go back to the 1897 map, it clearly dictates that a road was closed to allow a railway to be built through, and an avoiding road was built up here. If you look now, this is now named Whitedown Road, and then, like I described in the last bit of footage, it dog-legged across and then rejoined the road to Basingstoke there. Let's fast forward now to today. Okay, so everything's changed again. The railway has completely gone. In this area, there's very little to say that the railway was here. This road, which was Whitedown Lane prior to the railway being built, is now running right through all the way again to what is today's A339. Pituous Avenue now exists where it didn't before. The avoiding road
which is this bit here, still exists, but instead of doglegging here across where it used to over the bridge and the line used to come down here, it now continues into Whitedown Lane there and also continues into Alton there. So it's a good example of how, for once, a road makes way for a railway.
So I've crossed over the road now. I'm in a field, and the trees that you see in front of me, that's our track bed coming in from left to right. It would have been in a cutting. So if you look at these houses, you can see that they're down a few feet below the elevation of the land, and that is the original cutting that the line used to be in. It used to sweep. You can see basically where the house line is and the hedge line. That's our track bed just down below, and then the line would have gone into those trees that you can see just there, and that is the location of Alton Park, or Lord Mayor Treloars Cripples Home Hospital, and its platform and station, and that is where we're going to investigate next.
Originally a wooden structure, Alton Park opened around 1910. A private station, it served Lord Mayor Treloars Cripples Hospital, with just one train a week stopping on a Thursday. Later it was rebuilt using the same style of concrete as typical of the other stations on the line. So this is the site of Alton Park Station, and coming up on the platform heading north away from Alton, I think the first thing that you can notice is what a brilliant state the actual platform's in. I know there's a couple of trees growing out of it there on the slope and there's a bit of damage, but it looks remarkable. Here comes Tony.
Can't really get up on the platform there.
Okay, so we'll look for his mushroom factory in a minute, but as I was saying, out of all the stations on this line, Clidderton's buried, Herriot has been cut through the middle in a couple of places, Bentworth and Lasham has had the platform edge trashed, whereas this one is in great state of preservation, and I think it's fully extant. And we're coming to the end of the platform right now, as far as we can go anyway. There's just a couple of yards that we can't get into, and that's behind this fence in someone's garden. But it's in a brilliant state of preservation. I think that's great. One feature at Alton Park I'd like to look at is the coal siding, located close to the station to deliver coal to the hospital. Now this map from 1962 shows the station no longer here or in use, but the siding, which was still used until closure just 5 years later. Ensuring the trucks got to the hospital, however, wasn't entirely orthodox. So I'm not quite sure of how this was carried out, but this is my interpretation into how they got the coal wagons into the hospital siding. So our train would have come along here from Alton, along the main line to Winchester. It would have come north onto the remains of the Basingstoke and Alton Light Railway, which by this time was just a long siding. Our train would have come all the way up to here, the point where the station is. It's not marked on there, but it's around this point. Our train would have then reversed its wagons into this shunting neck here. The locomotive detached and then shunted back up here. A cable would have then been attached to those wagons, and it would have either been hauled or lowered into the coal siding via a capstan. This wonderful undated image shows the capstan, and possibly out of use as no cable is visible. The line seen to the right is the coal siding, and on the extreme centre right of the picture you can just make out the sleepers of the line from the shunting neck which took it out onto the Basingstoke and Alton Light Railway. As I say, depending on whether the siding, it's impossible to tell today, but depending on whether the siding was on an incline or going downhill, the trucks were either lowered into or hauled. It all depends where the steam power for the winch was located, if it was here or if it was here. Anyway, regardless, our trucks were then put into the sidings, the coals removed, and then our wagons were either by gravity allowed to return to the shunting neck, or they were winched back to the shunting neck. Once there, our locomotive would reattach, take the wagons back out onto the remains of the Alton Light Railway, and then I'm assuming they would reverse back onto the main line and into Alton. And this is that same capstan still here today.